Welcome to CramerSez. CramerSez. Be part of the show at CramerSez.com. Interact on Twitter at CramerSez. Now, CramerSez.
Welcome. My name is Kramer. This is a special presentation. We are going live to CNN here in just a moment as they talk about the presentation of the Durham Report. So we're going to go live to that as soon as that comes up here. I think it's important to for people to remember we've been waiting on this report for a number of years now. And CNN is already soft-pedaling. They're saying that it looks like what the report is going to say is that all the claims that we've been making about Trump over the last several years, that it's all false, that none of it was real. So you got to keep that in mind, folks. By the way, while we're waiting on this, if you've been watching what's going on my timeline on social media, you'll see that we did a special report in conjunction with the Gateway Pundit to learn more about these fraudulent FEC reports being made by the DCCC, the Democrat Campaign Congressional Campaign Committee. And in addition to that, we're also looking at what Act Blue has reported. And in that, what we found is a number of different fraudulent claims being made by the DCCC and Act Blue on the part of their contributors. Well, breaking live now. Let's go into to see what CNN is saying here about the Durham Report. By the way, we'll be talking about that on my podcast tonight. That's where I was getting with all this. So tonight, join us at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, and YouTube. We'll be talking about what we found. Hopefully, I'll be able to get Adam Sharp on with us. He's the correspondent that I worked with from the Gateway Pundit, and he can give you his insights as well. Let's go to CNN here. I get this here. There we go. Okay, let's add some volume here real quick for it. Let's see here. Let's see. Is that going to the right place? It should be. Let's see here. Here we go. It doesn't look like they're actually, haven't got the audio on this yet. Let me see if I can get this back this way. See if we can do it another way. We'll just go back. We'll go straight to Fire Stick. Here we go. Should be it there. Not hearing anything. Why aren't we hearing anything? None of that's coming up. Okay, well, we'll get here in we just had it just a moment ago. Go to this here. Oh, let's get out of that and go to this right here. That's why.
Regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump.
There we go.
Let's bring in CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez. Evan, what exactly did Durham find in this report?
Well,
Jake, finding from John Durham's 4-year investigation is that the FBI moved very quickly to investigate these allegations of connections, of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, and that they did so by ignoring a lot of evidence that would have led them to drop that altogether. He's saying that they may have had reason to open a preliminary investigation, an assessment. Perhaps these are very, very low-level investigations, but certainly what he finds is that there wasn't enough there to support the FBI's decision to open a full-blown investigation of this of the Trump-Russia ties back in 2016. I'll tell you one part of what he writes here. He says that it seems highly likely that at a minimum, confirmation bias played a significant role in the FBI's acceptance of extraordinarily serious allegations derived from uncorroborated information that had not been subjected to the typical exacting analysis that the FBI usually uses. He goes on to say that the FBI discounted or willfully ignored material information that did not support the narrative of a collusive relationship between Trump and Russia. There's a lot of very sharp criticism here of the former FBI leadership, James Comey, Andy McCabe, who were running the FBI and who oversaw a lot of these, a lot of the steps that the report goes into, Jake. But as you pointed out, bottom line, there are no additional charges. Nobody is bringing charges against Comey or anybody else that the former President Trump kept saying he expected them to. There was a former a former Clinton campaign outside lawyer who was brought up on charges. He was acquitted. Again, in here, there's a footnote that points out there's no chargeable crimes against people in the Clinton campaign. Again, something that the former president said he expected this investigation to find. Jake.
So it's very interesting. First of all, we should note that when President Biden took office, there were two special counsels, or one U.S. attorney and one special counsel, that he let continue doing their jobs.
He let continue.
Durham,
right. He allowed to continue.
And the other one was the U.S. attorney in Delaware investigating Hunter. So that is why this was allowed to proceed. A couple quotes here from Durham's report. One, based on the review of Crossfire Hurricane, that's the investigation into Trump and Russia, and related intelligence activities, we conclude that the Justice Department and FBI failed to uphold their important mission of strict fidelity to the law.
Listen to that.
In connection with certain events and activities described.
That's
in the
how
report.
you say. Listen to what he said there.
About,
what he said there is exactly what we've been saying. They
They
broke the law to do what they did. How much more clear do you have to make it, America? The FBI broke the law so they could go after Trump. Does that make you sick? Does that make you want to revolt, stand up? It should.
Personnel intimately involved in the matter, there was a, quote, predisposition to open an investigation into Trump. He is basically saying, he's not, these are not criminal allegations, but he's saying that this was unprofessional and failed to meet the standards of the Justice Department and the FBI.
Interfering with an election is now considered, well, it was a mistake. It was unprofessional. We probably shouldn't have done that. That's what they're saying. Now, listen to how Jake Tapper is just sidestepping that. Well, they're not saying it's any criminal offense, not at this point. But let's look at it as election interference, because that's exactly what it was.
Jake, the stunning thing about this report is that we frankly know a lot of this. The Inspector General of the Justice Department did a 500-page report that came out in late 2019, and that one told us a lot of these findings that Durham is now confirming. Frankly, one of the reasons why Durham was brought on board was supposedly to go beyond what the Inspector General of the Justice Department found in their investigation. And one of the things they were supposed to do was to tell us a lot about what the intelligence community was doing. It turns out they didn't find very much
Nothing
there in the intelligence community, and certainly not to support the suspicions that they had that there was a cabal of people from the FBI and the intelligence community who were out to get Donald Trump. That appears to have fallen flat as part of this investigation.
Whoa. No, it doesn't fall flat. It proves the point. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. They acted unprofessionally. They went outside of the FBI to be able to do this. They worked in collusion with another campaign. What do you mean? It exonerates Trump and proves exactly what we've been saying.
And so, look, there's a lot in here that should make the FBI
fucking idiots
have to come back and answer some of the more questions, including some of the changes that they say they've made to make sure something like this never happens again. But the bottom line,
we don't want this happening again.
You see here at the end of a 4-year investigation, really there doesn't tell us a hell of a lot more than what we knew, a couple years ago when
What we know is that the FBI is corrupt. We've known that for at least 2 years. That's what he's saying. That's the translation. He won't come out and say that, but what he's saying is the Inspector General told us this 2 years ago, and we did everything in our power at this network to hide that part and disenfranchise that message because it didn't belong to our narrative. That's what these cucks are saying.
Inspector General took a look at many of these things and came away with 17 very big troubling findings that they said the FBI needed to fix. Jake.
Yeah, so another thing, so Rachel Cohen, who is a spokeswoman the communications director for Mark Warner, who is the chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. She notes, and this is important context, that the Senate Intelligence Committee spent 3.5 years reviewing millions of documents and interviewing hundreds of witnesses. She writes this on Twitter, right, and concluded that the FBI had ample cause for concern in 2016. And she notes that the committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee at the time, was led by Republicans. She's referring to former North Carolina Senator Richard Burr. And again, both of these facts can be true at the same time. It is possible that the FBI had legitimate cause for concern, and is also possible that some individuals in the FBI got ahead over their skis and were not as professional as they should have been.
Right, exactly. And one of the things you come away from here in this report, and it was surprising to me to see him say it, because you remember, in 2019, Durham came out with a very highly unusual statement in which he said he disagreed with a key finding of the Inspector General, which said that, there was plenty of reason for the Justice Department, for the FBI to investigate the Trump campaign. He said he disagreed with that. In today's report, Durham says that he sees reason for the FBI to at least take a look at some of the initial tips that led to what became Crossfire Hurricane. He's saying that the FBI had reason to investigate, at least preliminarily. What he doesn't see is the reason for a full-blown investigation, according to this report. Jake, one of the things that stood out to me, if you remember, the former president kept saying that he was going to find evidence of deep state spying. Well, there is a part here that talks about a confidential human source, essentially a spy, who was tasked with going to a Clinton campaign fundraiser. Again, let me repeat that. A Clinton campaign fundraiser, because the FBI had gotten some information that somebody was saying that perhaps the foreign government might be expecting some favors from a future Clinton presidency. So there you have it. The FBI was spying on the Clinton campaign, according to John Durham's report.
Has the FBI responded at all to the Durham report?
They have. Christopher Wray, the FBI director, put out a statement just a little while ago saying that a lot of the changes that the FBI has made will make sure that things like this don't happen again. And, the FBI wants to point out, Jake, that a lot of the leadership, a lot of the people who were involved in decisions that are in for some very sharp criticism in this report, they're gone from the FBI.
Right, and the current FBI director was appointed, as we note, by President Trump. Not that has stopped him from criticizing Christopher Wray. Evan Perez, thank you so much. Let's bring in former federal prosecutor Ellie Honig and CNN's Sarah Murray. So here it is.
So let's look at what they just said. Here's what they just said. What they just said is that everything that we've been saying for the last 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, everything that we've been saying has been true. And all of the information that they gave, the very fuckers who just talked to you about that, the ones that presented this information to you as if, hey man, we just found this out, were saying just the opposite. We were being silenced every time we brought this up. Folks, if this doesn't make you so fucking pissed off that you want to take to the streets, nothing will. If this doesn't do it to you, nothing will. If what we're reporting right now, with what we're finding from the Gateway pundits and the research that we've done together on the finance fraud that the Democrats have pulled in at least the last 2 years we know of, but it looks like it goes back at least 7, 8 years of fake donations put in under the names of the elderly in this country, 70, 80-year-olds, unaware that supposedly these fixed income retirees are giving hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in donations. They're totally unaware of it. Why is that happening? We'll be talking about that tonight on my podcast at 8 p.m. And our findings, and we'll bring that up. Let's go back to these idiots at CNN to see how they're trying to spin the fact that they lied. They lied for years. They lied for years. How are they going to spin this now?
All 300 plus pages, Ellie. The bottom line, Durham has found that the FBI, in his view, should never have launched a full-blown investigation into relationships or allegations of relationships between Trump and his associates in his campaign and the Russian government. What's your response?
Well, Jake, there's no surprise in that conclusion. It was really sort of a foregone conclusion from the start. Let's remember how John Durham came to be special counsel. In the middle of 2019.
Whoa. There was no drawn conclusion there. Every time Trump said, hey, they spied on my campaign, and by the way, they just mentioned that, yeah, they spied on Hillary's campaign too. Why are they spying on campaigns? I don't care if they were spying on Hillary's. They shouldn't be spying. That's the problem. Two wrongs don't make a right.
When Mueller concluded his investigation, Donald Trump was taking to Twitter regularly saying, all caps, investigate the investigators. And shortly thereafter, Bill Barr appointed John Durham to do this investigation.
And you guys lost your fucking minds. CNN and MSNBC and the left lost their fucking minds. Then they look into it. What do they find out? What the FBI fucked up. The FBI broke laws. Yeah, well, they're not pressing charges at this point. No, this is just the report. Let's see if they've got any indictments behind that yet.
It was a really important and I think revealing moment. In December of 2019, DOJ's own Inspector General came out with the finding that, yes, the FBI made several missteps, and Durham seizes on some of these as well. However, there was ample ground to open an investigation. And right away, John Durham came out with a public statement and said, I disagree with that. That was 3 and change years ago, Jake. So it doesn't mean Durham's findings are valid or invalid, but there's absolutely no surprise that he's come out where he has.
Sarah, obviously, nuance is not really a part of Donald Trump's lexicon or the political lexicon in general. I assume that Trump and his allies are going to claim complete exoneration from this report.
You know, this report doesn't refer to the deep state necessarily, but that's not going to stop Donald Trump from saying the deep state.
Yeah, it does. Members of the government overstepped their authority and investigated a man that should not have been investigated. Stop trying to spin the fact that this is un-American. It's unconstitutional. It should not happen. Well, some people are going to spin this. Yeah, because we're not fucking morons like you guys. We're looking at the facts for what they are. It's important to remember, folks. It's important to remember that what we're asking here isn't for something, crazy. It's not for something that's insane. We just want to know the truth. And we want to know that if we're being told by our government or the media, if we're being told that something is going on, that we can trust in it, that we can have faith in what we're being told. And to the point we are right now, we cannot. Here's Fox News' coverage on it.
That has the ability to prosecute politicians rather than what I think the founders wanted was to allow us as the voters through the electorate to hold politicians accountable rather than wanting to throw politicians in jail. But maybe that's the more important thing is you've got this fight on the budget. You've been covering a lot about the debt limit and so on. Maybe Congress should start thinking about cutting off the funding for the FBI. Maybe Congress should start thinking about cutting off funding for different parts of the Justice Department that were responsible for this miscarriage of justice.
Someone has to be held accountable. Someone has to be held accountable for breaking the fucking rules. The ATF wants to put you in prison for a number of years if you've got the wrong fucking stock on your gun. We made a new rule, guys. You're now a felon if you do that. That's what they want to do. If you don't report your income, they want to know down to $600 how much money is moving through your account, yet they're never held accountable. At some point, someone has to be held accountable.
In 2016, maybe the American people don't need to live with a huge FBI and an all-powerful Justice Department.
What do we need it for?
It is interesting because if you think about it, John, I mean, there was no FBI at the time. Our forefathers were coming up with the concept for this great republic. But I do know a thing or two about them being concerned with overreach and government overreach, given, of course, what we had dealt with another power overseeing us. It just seems odd that from that foundation, things got out of control. And yet there doesn't seem to be much punishment for institutions that did get out of control.
That's an excellent point, Neil. If you brought like Thomas Jefferson or George Washington or even Alexander Hamilton, and you used the Star Trek transporter and you brought them to today, there'd be a lot of things they'd be into, like medical science, but they would be shocked at the existence of the FBI.
Not shocked, disgusted. Not shocked, disgusted. Those are totally separate words. Our founding fathers would not be shocked as to what's happened. They would expect it. That's why they gave us the tools that they gave us. That's why they spelled out very specifically what your rights are and what the government's aren't. That's important to understand. Our rights are spelled out as our rights. They're given to us by God, the universe, for simply being born. That's what our rights are. They don't come from the government. They don't come from our founding fathers. They were ours regardless of if the founding fathers had ever even recognized them. They're still ours. The right to protect ourselves, the right to free speech, the right to move freely, the freedom of thought. They wouldn't be shocked by what's happening. It was expected. That's what the Constitution was put in place to make sure it didn't happen. No, they would be disgusted that we've allowed it to happen. That's what they would be, disgusted.
You look at the Constitution, there's no mention of a national police agency. The founders, I think, would be amazed that we have this gigantic police force and investigatory force running around the country. Maybe this is a time for Congress to rethink whether we want to narrow, whether we want to reform the things that the FBI and the Justice Department do. That's nothing, that's all outside Durham's purview, but he's putting it before us and before Congress, all the facts that you need to be able to make that decision if you want to do it.
And then the way that you've got to do it, is clear. Congress has to do their fucking job. Congress, I'm talking to you, McCarthy. You've got to fucking grow a pair. You've got to start acting. You've got to start going after them. You've got to start holding them accountable. Hit them where it hurts, in the pocketbook. In the pocketbook. We know that's where it hurts the most. Hit them where it hurts the most. Make them wither away by holding back their cash, by holding back what you send them. That's your job. That's the ability that you have. It's just insanity. The insanity continues.
That is brilliantly put, and that is exactly what Durham kind of ends this entire report saying, leafing through it here. But John, it's an excellent point, because when all is said and done, he did not, that is Durham, recommend any new charges against individuals, wholesale changes, anything differently than what has already occurred, and essentially saying that the politically charged investigations are delineated and attacked as they stand, but recognizing that the behavior behind that and changing that behavior, that's an issue that apparently goes beyond his pay grade.
Yes, and in fact, it's really interesting, and you have to have a lot of sympathy for Durham, because there's a lot of things you could do here, but he's only really narrowly focused on charging people with federal crimes with proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a tiny amount of the whole universe of things that could happen to reform this situation. The other thing I think he brings to light, which really is also outside his purview, is how intertwined the Hillary Clinton campaign was with the Obama administration and the intelligence and law enforcement agencies. That's something I think that really has to be resolved through elections. Are we going to start voting for people who are going to promise to break that kind of change? That's another thing that founders would have been extremely worried by, shocked by even, is political parties intermixing with our civil servants and using their powers to go after one of the parties that's running for the presidency, the opposition party that's running against the incumbents. I hope that voters take this into account. That's how I think the founders really wanted things to be reformed, is now we as voters know, because of the Durham Report, all the mistakes, all the biases, all the dirty politics that went into the 2016 election. I hate to say it, I was a doubter at first, but Donald Trump was right that this all was a hoax.
That's what pisses me off. That's what pisses me off. This person, an establishment person, says, well, I didn't trust Donald Trump. I didn't think it was actually happening. How many times has Trump said, time and time again, he's made the comment, this happened, and everybody comes out and says, no, he's a liar. That didn't happen. Don't trust him. He's a huckster. He's a P.T. Barnum of our day. Don't take his word for it. He's just doing it to serve himself. Time and time again. Time and time again, we've learned that the mainstream media has lied to us or underreported what's really going on because of their agenda. That's why it's important for you personally, to start doing your own research, your own digging, finding people that do that themselves, like what we've done here recently with the Gateway Pundit. Tonight, I want you to join me on the podcast, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Rumble as we talk about the new information that we've learned from the reporting of donations of elderly, fixed income retirees, those kind of elderly, where Act Blue and the DCCC, the biggest fundraising arms of the Democrat Party, are over-reporting by hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, the amount of money coming into their coffers from individual donors. For example, we've got records of a lady who supposedly gave a dime donation 30 times in one day. Donated a dime to Act Blue or the DCC 30 times, a dime, or 50 cents, or 75 cents, or 32 cents. Now, anybody who knows anything about money laundering knows that those smaller donations are what they call rounding errors. They have to get all of the money at the end of the day even. So if they get $1 million dirty bucks up front and they've got to spread that across all of these fake donations across their platform, at some point they're going to come down to nickels, dimes, and pennies. And how do they get those given out? Well, they have to be individual donations from people, and that's what we're finding time and time again. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, you can watch what we've got and what we've compiled and the short documentary that we've created talking about this exact subject. Join us tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, and YouTube. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.
Get more at CramerSez.com. CramerSez.com.